The other day, I had a thought. If God wanted to wake you up, how would He do it? What options would He have to get your attention, to wake you up? Let's say if you were sleeping. Have you ever had to wake up somebody? How did you do it? Now, I guess the way you would wake somebody up depends on who the person is, also depends on what the situation may be, correct? For example, you would wake up in a different way your children compared to your spouse. You would wake up your parents in a different way as well. In addition, if, let's say, God forbid, the house is on fire, the way you would wake up the people would be different than the way you would wake up because they have to go for a walk. I remember there were times sometimes when my kids were taking a nap and they wanted to do something afterwards, something that I really didn't want to go and do with them. I was kind of dragging my feet, and I woke them up very, very softly, hoping that they will not wake up. And if they didn't wake up, I said, well, I woke you guys up, but you wouldn't wake up, so I let you sleep. But how would God wake you up? The Bible talks about a wedding ceremony taking place. This is found in Matthew chapter 25, and it is a parable. It is a story with a point. And what happened in this story is that apparently the wedding ceremony was supposed to take place in the evening. Now, if you know something about weddings, it seems that every wedding starts late. And so happened in this case too. It got to be late, and the people, even though they didn't want to fall asleep, many of them fell asleep. Actually, the story is only about 10 bridesmaids. And it got so late that at midnight, they were sleeping. They were soundly sleeping. And the Bible tells us in verse 6 of Matthew 25 that at midnight there was a shout. The bridegroom is coming. Prepare to meet him. I wonder about this shout. How was it? Was it a scary, a terrible shout? Or was it a joyful and exhilarating shout? After all, this was a wedding. After all, it was the bridegroom who was coming. In any case, they woke up. What would it take for you to wake up? How would God wake you up? What options would He have at His disposal to wake you up out of the drowsiness that comes on us in our day-to-day living? I want to share a story with you. It happened on the night of December 20th, 1980. It happened in the little town of Langby, Minnesota. Jean Hilliard, Hilliard, went from her small town to the bigger town of Fosston, Minnesota. They went there because with a group of friends they wanted to have a night out. So they went to the Fosston American Legion. They stayed there till about midnight. At least this is when Jean Hilliard starting driving back towards her house. She was 19 years old, and it would take about 10 minutes on a good day to drive to get back home. She was driving her father's Ford LTD. The problem was that it was snowing, and in addition to the snow drifts that she would encounter on her way back, the road was also quite icy. Needless to say, she found herself in a ditch before too long. She couldn't get the car out, and she decided that she was going to walk. She had a friend, his name was Wally Nelson, who lived not too far, And she thought, you know what, I'm going to walk to his house and I'm going to get help from him. Now she thought that this house was closer than it was actually the reality. So she ended up walking about 3 miles in minus 20-degree weather. She says that the last memory that she has is when she could see Wally's house through the trees. Perhaps it was a third of a mile, a quarter of a mile away. And after this, everything went black. She doesn't have any more memory of what happened. People told her later that she actually fell in his driveway because they could see it in the tracks in the snow. And she crawled all the way to Wally Nelson's doorstep. She was there on his doorstep for about 6 hours. In the morning, when Wally woke up, he got outside and guess what? Here she is, frozen. He says that he tried to move her, he tried to pick her up, but she was stiffer than a board. He says that her eyes were frozen wide open. He thought she was dead. However, as he examined her a little bit closer, she noticed that some bubbles were coming out as she was faintly breathing. He had a friend over that night, so he asked his friend to help put Jean in her truck so he can take her to the hospital. They tried to fit her in the truck, but she wouldn't fit because she was frozen stiff. And so they decided to take the friend's car, and they rushed to the hospital in Boston, about 10 minutes away. At the hospital, the doctors started to warm her up, and there was a person in that hospital, a worker in the hospital, who knew that Jean was also going to her church, and she called the pastor, and the pastor started a prayer chain. Now, what happened after this is completely a miracle, because in a few hours she started convulsing violently, but after that she calmed down, she regained consciousness, and in a few hours more she had no symptoms, there was nothing wrong with her whatsoever. So she woke up. She was frozen, almost dead, but she woke up. What would it take for you to wake up? We have these two stories, a story about people sleeping, waiting for a wedding. There is a shout, and they wake up. And then we have the story of a young girl. She was 19, by the way, at this time. And she froze almost to death, but she woke up. What would it take for God to wake you up? How would he do it? Could it be that the current world events, that this crisis that we are going on right now with the pandemic of the coronavirus, with the economic turmoil that is happening in our country and all around the world, could it be that God is trying to tell us, hey, it's time to wake up. It is time to take him seriously. So friends, today we have a choice. We have a choice to make. What are we going to do? God is trying to wake us up. Are we going to mumble? Are we going to wake up a little bit with sleepy eye, look around and roll over on the other side and continue sleeping? Or are we going to truly wake up? Perhaps if we stay awake long enough, we will realize that the house is on fire. We will realize that God is trying to tell us, hey, wake up. You need to take some action. because otherwise your future is at stake. I pray and I challenge you that you would consider these questions, consider these thoughts, and see where are you in your relationship with our loving God and Father. And this is it for right now. If you have enjoyed this short devotional, this story, I invite you to click the subscribe button, also the notification bell, so that you know when I will post new devotionals. Again, I'm trying to do at least one a day while I am self-separating and isolating here at home. Also, if you have enjoyed it, I want to encourage you to tell others, to pass it on. Maybe copy the link and send it via text or via email to one of your friends so they could benefit from this as well. Thank you, and may God bless you and your family.